So here's our perfectly mixed turkey meatball mixture. And if you've been reading The Perfect Pantry, you know that my father was an electrical engineer and a very precise man. He was also the meatball maker in our house. And he could take a batch like this, or even larger. This is 1.25 pounds of meat. He could take 5 pounds, and he could, just by eye, make perfectly shaped meatballs of equal size. I'm not that good, and I'm not that obsessive. But there is a really good reason for making meatballs that are all more or less the same size and shape. That's because they cook in the same amount of time. So I have a couple of aids to help me do that. One is a tablespoon. This is great, but I have a better idea. I have these. These look like ice cream scoops, and guess what? They are ice cream scoops. This one is for ice cream, really. It's called a disher, and it has a release. So you can see you put a mixture in it, you turn it over, and you release. This one is really for making cookies. You can see that it's a little bit smaller. I use both of these for meatballs, so depending on whether you want gigundo meatballs that you're going to put in a sandwich, or small meatballs that you might put in soup or pasta, you can use the little one or the big one. We're going to use both today. So here's my meatball method. I'm going to take the large one first and scoop some of the meatball mixture right up against the side of your bowl. You're going to squeeze it out onto a platter, or in this case I'm using a rimmed baking sheet that's lined with a silicone mat. And if I bake these meatballs, I can bake right on here. So here's my large meatball. And look, if I do it again, I scoop against the side so that it's pretty well packed. Voila! 2 meatballs that are exactly the same size. Now, I can do the same thing with the small one. And I can make a whole bunch of meatballs. So out of this standard batch that we're using in a flock of meatballs, from every batch of meatballs I can get 12 to 14 large size like this. I can get 24 to 30 smaller ones, just depending on what kind of filling I put in them. Oops, you didn't see that. So these meatballs are great. They're all going to be about the same size, and they're all going to cook in about the same amount of time. But they're not round. I grant you that. They're a little flat on the bottom. Now sometimes, honestly, I just leave them that way. And if I'm going to use them in a sandwich or I'm going to use them in a salad, I might not want them to roll around. But if I do want them to roll around, or I do want them to float around, then all I have to do is take a little bit of water, really little bit, on my fingertips, and lightly, lightly, lightly roll these meatballs until they're round. And they don't spread at all, so if you're baking them, you can keep them right on this sheet, put them right up next to each other. And an entire batch, whether they're the large ones or the small ones, are going to fit right on this same baking sheet. When your fingers start to get a little bit dry, just dip the tips again, pick up your meatballs and roll them. They're going to be the same. Now, you certainly can do this by eye. You can use a tablespoon, and your meatballs don't all have to be perfectly round and even. But try to keep them more or less the same size, and they'll bake in more or less the same time. So that is the secret to making evenly sized meatballs.